The sun had barely crested over the pine trees surrounding the Anderson family's cabin when Sarah heard it, a low, guttural whine that sent ice through her veins. It was 6:47 a.m. on a Saturday morning in October, and her 8-year-old daughter Emma should have been fast asleep. But Max, their 3-year-old German shepherd, was standing rigid at Emma's bedroom door, his muscular body trembling with an intensity Sarah had never seen before. His ears were pinned flat against his skull, and his dark eyes were fixed on the closed door with an almost human expression of desperation. "Max, what's wrong, boy?" Sarah whispered, her heart beginning to hammer against her ribs. The dog didn't even turn to acknowledge her. Instead, he let out another whine, higher pitched this time, almost pleading, and scratched frantically at the door. The sound of his claws against wood echoed through the silent hallway like a warning bell. Sarah's hand shook as she turned the doorknob. The moment the door cracked open, Max bolted inside and positioned himself directly beside Emma's bed, his body pressed against the mattress, his nose inches from her face. He wouldn't move, wouldn't budge. It was as if an invisible force had rooted him to that exact spot. "Emma, honey," Sarah's voice cracked, "time to wake up." Emma stirred but didn't open her eyes. Her breathing seemed off, shallow, too quiet. And Max looked up at Sarah with eyes that seemed to scream, "Do something, now." "Emma," Sarah rushed to the bedside, her maternal instincts blazing. She shook her daughter's shoulder gently, then more firmly. Emma's eyelids fluttered but didn't open. Her skin felt cool to the touch, too cool, and there was a strange, almost bluish tint to her lips that hadn't been there last night. Max pressed closer, his warm body now fully on the bed, draped protectively over Emma's torso. When Sarah tried to move him aside, he growled, not at her, but at the situation, at the invisible enemy threatening his little girl. "Tom," Sarah screamed for her husband. "Tom, call 911 now." The next 20 minutes unfolded in a blur of panic and prayers. Tom burst into the room, took one look at Emma's pale face and Max's unwavering vigil, and his fingers fumbled with his phone. The dispatcher's calm voice felt like an anchor in the storm. "Help is on the way. Keep her warm. Monitor her breathing." But here's what made Sarah's blood run cold. Max had known. Somehow, impossibly, he had known something was wrong before any of them had even woken up. How long had he been standing guard? How long had he been trying to alert them? The sound of sirens cut through the morning air, a piercing wail that grew louder and louder until red and blue lights danced across Emma's bedroom walls. 2 paramedics rushed in with equipment, their faces professional but urgent. "We need to assess her," the female paramedic said, reaching for Emma. Max bared his teeth. "Max, no," Tom commanded. But the German shepherd wouldn't move. His body remained a living shield between his girl and the strangers, his loyalty override every command, every plea. "Sir, we need to get to your daughter right now, the male paramedic said, his voice tight with barely controlled urgency. "That dog needs to move." Time seemed to stop. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears, could feel the weight of an impossible choice crushing down on her chest. Emma's breathing was getting shallower. They were losing precious seconds. But Max, who had been Emma's constant companion since she was 5 years old, wouldn't budge. Then something extraordinary happened. Sarah knelt down and looked Max directly in the eyes. "Max," she whispered, tears streaming down her face, "we need your help, boy. We need to save her, please." For 3 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, slowly, deliberately, Max stepped back, but only 2 feet. He remained close enough to watch, close enough to protect, but far enough to let the paramedics work. What they discovered in the next 60 seconds would change everything. "Her blood sugar's critically low," the female paramedic announced, checking her glucose monitor. "We're talking dangerously hypoglycemic. If she'd slept another hour..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Type 1 diabetes. Emma had been diagnosed 6 months ago and they'd been managing it carefully, or so they thought. But last night's dinner, the extra activity from playing in the backyard, the missed bedtime snack, it had created a perfect storm. A storm that could have killed her in her sleep. A storm that Max had detected. The emergency room at Cedar Valley Hospital was a harsh assault of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smells. Emma was rushed into treatment while Sarah and Tom sat in the waiting room, their hands clasped so tightly their knuckles turned white. They'd been forced to leave Max at home, and Sarah could still see the anguish in the dog's eyes as they drove away. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, Dr. Patel emerged through the double doors, her expression serious but hopeful. "Your daughter is stable," she said, and Sarah felt her legs nearly give out with relief. "We've got her blood sugar regulated and she's conscious. She's asking for you, and for someone named Max." Sarah laughed through her tears. "Our dog, he's the one who," her voice broke, "he's the one who saved her life." Dr. Patel's eyes widened. "The dog alerted you before symptoms were obvious." Tom nodded. He wouldn't leave her side, wouldn't let us ignore what was happening. The doctor was quiet for a moment, and something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or wonder. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, dogs have been known to detect chemical changes in the human body. Changes in blood sugar, changes before seizures, even cancer. Their sense of smell is 10,000 times more sensitive than ours. Your German Shepherd likely smelled the ketones your daughter's body was producing as her blood sugar dropped. He knew she was in danger before any of us could have known." But Dr. Patel wasn't finished. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping. "Here's what you need to understand. Hypoglycemic events during sleep are called dead-in-bed syndrome in the diabetes community. If Max hadn't alerted you when he did." She let the implication hang in the air. Emma might not have woken up at all. When they brought Max to the hospital later that afternoon, special permission granted by a sympathetic hospital administrator, the reunion was nothing short of miraculous. Emma was sitting up in bed, still pale but smiling, when the German Shepherd padded into her room with Sarah and Tom. The moment Max saw her, his entire body began to quiver with emotion. He approached the bed slowly, carefully, as if she were made of glass. "Max," Emma whispered, reaching out her small hand. The dog placed his head in her palm and closed his eyes. If dogs could cry, Sarah was certain Max would have been weeping. His tail wagged once, twice, a tentative expression of relief and joy, and then he pressed his face against Emma's chest, listening to her heartbeat. "Good boy," Emma murmured, her fingers tangling in his soft fur. "Such a good boy. You saved me, didn't you?" A nurse who'd been checking Emma's vitals wiped at her eyes. "In my 20 years here, I've never seen anything like this," she said softly. But Sarah knew. She'd always known, really, from the day they'd brought Max home as a puppy, and he'd immediately bonded with Emma. Dogs weren't just pets. They were guardians, protectors, family members who would give everything for those they loved. That evening, as Emma slept peacefully with Max curled up in a special bed beside her hospital cot, Dr. Patel pulled Sarah and Tom aside into the hallway. Her expression was different now, more intense, almost urgent. "I need to tell you something," she said, "something the blood work revealed." Sarah's stomach dropped. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. In fact, something's very right." Dr. Patel pulled out a tablet, showing them a series of charts and numbers. "We ran comprehensive blood tests when Emma came in, beyond just glucose levels. Standard procedure for severe hypoglycemic events." She paused, and Sarah wanted to scream at her to just say it. "Your daughter's diabetes. It's not behaving like typical type 1. The antibody markers suggest something called mature onset diabetes of the young, MODY. It's a genetic form of diabetes that's often misdiagnosed. Here's why this matters. MODY can often be managed without insulin, just with oral medications. We would have never run these specific tests if Emma hadn't come in for this emergency. Tom blinked. Wait, are you saying? I'm saying Max didn't just save Emma's life last night. By forcing this emergency, by making sure she came in when she did, he may have helped us discover a diagnosis that will change her entire treatment plan. A better plan. One that will give her more freedom, fewer restrictions, a more normal childhood. Sarah felt the world tilt on its axis. How is that even possible? Dr. Patel smiled, a real, warm smile that reached her eyes. I stopped being surprised by what dogs can do a long time ago. They know things we don't. They sense things we can't. Max knew Emma needed help, and maybe, in some way we'll never fully understand, he knew she needed to be here. Here. Right now. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen windows of the Anderson home, painting everything in shades of gold. Emma sat at the breakfast table, her glucose levels stable on her new medication, a piece of toast with peanut butter in front of her. Max lay at her feet, his head resting on her toes, his eyes half closed in contentment. Mom says you're a hero, Emma told him, dropping a small piece of toast for him to catch. She says you're the smartest dog in the whole world. Max's tail thumped against the floor. On the wall behind them hung a framed photo from a local news story. Heroic German Shepherd saves young girl's life. The article had gone viral, bringing attention to medical alert dogs and the incredible bond between humans and their four-legged companions. But for the Anderson family, Max wasn't a headline or a viral sensation. He was simply family, a protector, a guardian angel with fur and four paws who had refused to leave her side when it mattered most. Sarah watched from the doorway, coffee cup in hand, and felt tears prick her eyes for the 1,000th time. They'd almost lost Emma, but they hadn't. Because of loyalty, because of love, because of a German Shepherd who knew, in ways science was only beginning to understand, that his little girl needed him. I love you, Max, Emma whispered. And in that moment, as morning light filled the kitchen and a dog's faithful eyes met a little girl's grateful gaze, it was clear that love, pure, unconditional, transcendent love, was the most powerful force in the universe. Sometimes the greatest heroes don't wear capes, they wear fur. They ask for nothing but love and loyalty in return, and they give everything, their vigilance, their devotion, their very lives to protect those they cherish. Max's story reminds us that the bond between humans and dogs is more than companionship. It's a sacred trust, a promise that says, I will watch over you, I will know when you need me, and I will never ever leave your side. What incredible story does your pet have? Share it in the comments below. Let's celebrate the heroes who sleep at our feet and guard our hearts.